Today, we're looking at why Toyota is reluctant to commit to only battery electric vehicles despite what many large car makers are doing. We're also looking at the silent majority of car makers who agree with Toyota. And we'll finish off by talking about whether Toyota's stand on electrification is very right or very wrong. Despite the media hype around electronic vehicles, the world's biggest car maker, Toyota, has been dragging its feet on going all in with electrification. In fact, Toyota President Akio Toyoda has continued to be vocal in his opinion that electric cars aren't the only way forward for the car industry. For the longest time, it seemed that he was the only one swimming upstream. But recently, he said there's a silent majority in the car industry that actually agree with him. In other words, it's a quiet revolution. Akio Toyoda said that a silent majority is also wondering whether EVs are really okay to have as a single option. But because of the EV trend, the silent majority can't speak out loudly. Or I wonder, maybe they don't want to speak out and go against the popular vote, so to speak. Now, this doesn't mean that Toyota is completely against electric vehicles. Toyota is a leader and pioneer in hybrid cars. And by 2030, Toyota plans to sell at least 3.5 million EVs annually. That comes out to around 1/3 of its global sales. And on top of that, Toyota also plans to invest around $29 billion to release 30 battery-powered models by 2030. But when it comes to going all in on electrification, that's where Toyota draws the line. It's not absolutely against it, but it's not committed to it either. Toyota believes that not everyone is ready for an electric car, and that's why it plans to continue offering consumers a variety of car options like hybrids, plug-in hybrids, EVs, and hydrogen-powered vehicles. Akio Toyoda says that since the right answer is still unclear, the company isn't limiting itself to just one option. Basically, he doesn't want to put all his eggs into one basket, at least not now. But it's not just that Toyota is cautious and conservative. But on top of that, the company believes that diversifying will be the best way to reduce emissions. Put simply, he says that carbon is the real enemy, not a particular type of powertrain. Here's the thing, Toyota is either very right or very wrong. Right now, there are too many unknowns and it's too early to predict this way or that. Only years from now, in hindsight, will we really know who was right. But for now, if you want to try to guess if Toyota's right or wrong, well, the answer depends on who you ask. On the surface level, Akio Toyoda's opinion makes sense. Realistically speaking, cutting carbon emissions on a global scale won't be the result of just one single solution. Instead, it will require a combination of factors to make a significant positive change. Let's just look at a few facts for a minute. Car makers like GM and Volkswagen have made big EV promises for the future. They're placing big bets on it. GM is working to electrify all of its light-duty vehicles so that 100% will be electric by 2035. Consider, too, that EVs are still relatively new. They haven't been refined for more than a century as the combustion engine had been. Most likely in the future, there will be other fuel or energy alternatives that will be even better than an electric battery. We just haven't discovered or refined it yet. Also, take a look at some of the rapid ongoing developments in EV batteries themselves. There are dozens of companies out there working on batteries which require much shorter charging times and deliver longer ranges as we speak. Once next generation batteries do come out, if they do, it's logical to assume that those in the EV industry that are already investing big bucks to electrify will be able to implement them much faster than Toyota. Also, you've got to remember that not every American has a charging station on their street corner. EV charging infrastructure availability still has a long way to go. There is a lack of charging infrastructure in many markets, especially in the developing world. And in fact, many countries still lack the charging infrastructure to sustain the EV boom. Consider, too, that most EVs are expensive for the average consumer. That's why the idea of creating a variety of vehicles, including hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and hydrogen-powered EVs, for example, isn't that crazy of a proposition. It's about giving consumers more choices rather than limiting them to just battery electric cars. But there's a real problem, though, at least for Toyota. If Toyota doesn't catch up and join the all-electric game, it'll be far behind its competitors. Well, it's already behind, but the gap will be even wider. The EV industry is still pretty young, but it won't always stay that way. The industry is quickly growing as major car makers electrify their lineup. For example, for the first 3 quarters of 2022, battery electric vehicle sales grew about 80% compared to the year prior. And we can expect the trend to continue upwards, considering the fact that the Volkswagen Group is investing over $100 billion through 2026, while Ford is investing $50 billion and GM is investing $35 billion until 2025. Right now, Japanese car brands make up 1/3 of the new car sales in the U.S., and they dominate from Southeast Asia all the way to Africa. That's a huge chunk of the global market that's coming from companies on one small island. But Toyota's not quick to electrify, and all this has been drawing international criticism. For example, last November, NASCAR Cup Series spectators were stunned when a plane sponsored by a nonprofit group called Public Citizen flew past the Phoenix Raceway carrying a banner that read, "One exciting, drive electric. One boring, drive Toyota." Public Citizen is the same organization that participated in an open letter to Kia Toyota earlier, criticizing Toyota for not even trying to meet consumer demand for battery electric cars. If you look at who's the top of the EV world, you got Tesla, BYD, Wuling, and Volkswagen. Chinese brands are growing too. Not yet one single Japanese car maker is even among the top 20 in EV sales. In 2021, major Japanese automakers had about 40% of the U.S. market for passenger vehicles. But by the second quarter of 2022, that percentage dropped to 34%. And by the third quarter, that percentage dropped further down to 32%. But it wasn't always this way. Funny enough, back in 2009, Nissan unveiled its electric hatchback, the Leaf. Mitsubishi launched its first EV that year too, the i-MiEV. And not many people know this, but back in 2010, Toyota invested in Tesla. Despite the early enthusiasm for battery electric initially, Japanese car brands in general stalled in developing and expanding it. That's not to say that Japanese companies haven't been releasing battery electric vehicles. They have. They just aren't doing as well as planned. Take the Toyota BZ4X electric SUV, for example. Just 1 month after its release, sales had to be halted due to a defect that caused some of the wheels to fall off. Sales have resumed since then, but they are limited. Former Nissan executive and chief product designer for the Nissan Leaf, Masato Inoue, even acknowledged that the Japanese car industry needs to catch up. Actually, he said it could already be too late. Another former Nissan executive, Carlos Ghosn, has similarly commented that Nissan lost its early mover advantage and that latest electrification investment is too little, too late. He also predicted that Japanese car makers will likely struggle to catch up with their rivals like BYD. Well, some say that Ghosn's pessimistic about Nissan's future since he was arrested in 2018 in charges of financial misconduct at Nissan. Now, maybe there's some truth in what he says, or maybe not. But regardless, he's far from the only one who's pessimistic about the EV success of Japanese car brands. You see, some markets are shifting to EVs a lot faster than experts anticipated. For example, the first 3 quarters of 2022, around 15% of new cars sold in Germany and the UK and more than 20% in China were electric, and that percentage continues to increase. Some say that one reason behind Japanese car makers' reluctance to fully electrify might be fear. The fear that the shift can devastate existing car sales and the large network of parts, suppliers, and subcontractors, just overwhelming them. That's because EVs typically require less parts and components compared to traditional combustion engine cars. That's not just a blanket statement. Take Nagoya, for example. It's a city in central Japan near Tokyo's headquarters. Hypothetically speaking, if Toyota were fully electrified, basically half of Nagoya could be unemployed, and it could even shrink the growth potential of the Japanese economy. That all aside, even if Japanese car makers decide to catch up, it won't be easy. That's because the EV competition is shifting from traditional mechanical engineering and more towards software and services. Now, to clarify, Toyota hasn't put a complete halt to EV plans together. The thing is, they just don't want to commit to offering battery electric exclusively, even though that's where many car brands are headed. Now, Toyota has repeatedly said that other powertrain options will continue to be in their lineup. Now, Toyota recently unveiled 2 unique concepts, both based on the AE86, which was made famous by the initial D anime series. But of the 2 concepts, only one is electrified, which goes to show yet again, Toyota is reluctant to commit to only battery electric vehicles and its continued search to look at other alternatives. Recently, Toyota also revealed 2 EV truck concepts. The first was the Hilux Revo battery electric vehicle. And actually, this prototype is Toyota's first ever fully electric pickup truck. Basically, it's an EV version of the Hilux with a body-on-frame chassis and almost looks like the legendary Toyota work trucks from the 70s and 80s. It seems to be a mid-size single cab with an extended bed and tie-down hooks on the outside of the bed rails and charging port on the front left fender. So everything points to this being made for work. The other EV truck prototype is the IMV-0 pickup. It looks like Toyota's compact cruiser EV concept, but as a customizable multi-purpose truck. So far, Toyota hasn't revealed much details, but there's a rumor, sadly, that neither of these trucks may make it over to here in the States. Basically, Toyota revealed these EV trucks in Thailand to celebrate its 60th anniversary of vehicles produced in that country. Not many people know this, but actually, Thailand is Toyota's 4th highest production center worldwide. It comes in just behind Japan, China, and the US. U.S. Anyway, the thing is, Thai drivers typically prefer versatile pickups that can be used for both passengers and cargo. That's why many speculate these electric trucks might be exclusive to Thailand. The combustion engine ban just got delayed in the UK from 2030 to 2035. The reason for the delay was due to the cost of living pressures. But here's the big question. Will the U.S. follow the UK and postpone the combustion engine ban too? Many car makers are already moving to transition away from combustion engines and to an electric-only future. Needless to say, many car makers are surprised by the news that the ban will be postponed. But Mazda's doing the happy dance. It welcomes the delay as something very good for the company. To be honest, not a big surprise to hear that from Mazda. To date, Mazda's only launched one fully electric vehicle. I'm talking about the MX-30. Plus, between today and 2025, Mazda intends to release just 2 more EVs, and we still don't know exactly what these EVs will be. You see, Mazda has only promised to be fully electrified by the start of the next decade. Its predictions are that battery electric vehicles will make up anywhere from 25 to 45% of the sales then. But it's more to the story than that. Just look at Kota Matsuo. He's the general manager of powertrain development. He said that postponing the ICE ban until 2035 will give the industry more time to research alternative solutions to the emissions problem. He thinks that battery EVs are just one of various solutions to carbon neutrality. But Mazda's also betting on internal combustion engines that use carbon neutral fuels. Thing is, the EU has approved an e-fuel as an exemption to the internal combustion engine ban. So, this is yet another reason why Mazda welcomes the delay to the ban. It'll buy Mazda some time to research carbon neutral fuel. For now, the postponement of the ICE ban is happening across the pond in the UK, and it's unclear at this time whether the USA may also see a delay or not. Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets pushed back too. But one thing is clear, the ICE ban is one of the topics of discussion for the next U.S. presidential election. You've got Biden and his administration. They're all for widespread adoptions of EVs across the country. On the other hand, there's U.S. former President Donald Trump. He's been very vocal about his thoughts against electric vehicles. Trump also said that EVs are too expensive and built specifically for people who like to take short trips, and that EVs leave drivers with range anxiety. According to Trump, the happiest moment as an EV driver is the first 10 minutes. Trump argues that by pushing Americans to go electric, Biden's actually handing over jobs and the nation's security to China. Reason is, China controls the majority of the world's battery minerals and manufacturing. Sharing the same sentiments, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis asked why someone would want to knowingly make the country more dependent on what goes on in China. Some states are currently proposing to slam EVs with extra taxes, fees, and legal restrictions. The purpose is to slow down EV adoption. Take Texas, for example, where an EV owner will have to pay $200 a year in additional fees to the state to make up for the lost fuel taxes. Here's the thing. Right now, EVs aren't subject to a gas tax and don't contribute to the Highway Trust Fund, known as HTF. Basically, the HTF is a transportation fund, and it gets money from a federal fuel tax of 18.4 cents per gallon of gasoline and 24.4 cents per gallon of diesel fuel and related excise taxes. The money is used to finance the U.S. interstate highway system and other specific roads. But imagine what will happen to the HTF if or when all cars go electric. That's why recently, Nebraska Senator Deb Fischer proposed a bill this past October. It's called the Stop EV Freeloading Act. The new bill, if passed, will make EVs pay into the HTF to support the construction and maintenance of U.S. roads and bridges. Reason isn't only because EVs share the same roads as gas-powered cars. The fact is, EVs weigh significantly more than traditional cars, mainly because of their large batteries. The heavier weight puts extra strain and stress on our roads, and therefore we can expect more frequent road maintenance than ever before. So the proposed mandates a one-time fee of $1,000 per EV at the point of sale. The fee would be imposed on EV makers and the money would pay into the Highway Trust Fund. Different states feel differently about the combustion engine ban. No surprise that California has been very vocal on its support for EVs and the desire to limit the sale of new gas-powered vehicles. But this past October, the U.S. House of Representatives passed Preserving Choice in Vehicle Purchases Act. Basically, it prevents states like California from pretty much forcing Americans to buy EVs and banning the sale of new gas-powered cars. Here's the thing. There's nothing more quintessentially American than the freedom of the open road and the right to choose the car of your choice. The legislation protects this by preventing states from getting an EPA waiver to the Clean Air Act. Virginia is one state that strongly is against limiting the sale of gas-powered cars. Back in 2021, former Virginia Governor, Democrat Ralph Northam, signed legislation that tied Virginia's emissions policies to the California Air Resources Board. Now, the board imposed a regimen to eliminate the sale of gas and diesel vehicles by 2035. So then Virginia was forced to do the same. Current governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, said that Virginia can't afford to be California, so it's looking to unhook itself from California's 100% EV mandate. He also said that people who think this is a forced choice between reliable, affordable, and clean are just plain wrong. In a statement to Twitter, Youngkin said that liberal politicians who previously ran the state sold Virginia out by subjecting Virginia drivers to California vehicle laws and basically tried to turn Virginia into California. But Youngkin is working to prevent what he calls the ridiculous edict from being forced on Virginians. Virginia House Speaker Todd Gilbert, too, said that Virginia is not and should not be California. North Carolina is yet another state that's strongly against the combustion engine ban. In its annual budget amendments, the North Carolina legislature included amendments that prohibited the state from adopting and enforcing a ban on the sale of new combustion engine vehicles. Yet, despite opposing the bill, Governor Roy Cooper said he'll allow the budget to become law without his signature. Because the Republican Party holds a supermajority in both the House and the Senate, this gives them enough votes to override a veto if Governor Roy Cooper decides to pursue that course of action. The Biden administration is really feeling the pressure. Here's the thing. The NHTSA proposed standards for the corporate average fuel economy, or CAFE, require passenger car and light trucks to improve fuel efficiency 2 to 4% beginning in 2027. Under the rules, pickup trucks and work vans also need to boost fuel efficiency 10% every year starting in 2030. With these standards, the agency said U.S. fleet economy could reach 58 miles per gallon by 2032. As for the 2022 model year, EPA estimated average fuel economy was 26.4 miles per gallon. The Biden administration argued that these new standards would help save Americans money and fight climate change. But not everyone agrees. After issuing these fuel economy regulations, the NHTSA received nearly 63,000 public comments during its comment period from late July to October 2023. On top of that, CAFE standards received opposition letters from a large range of stakeholders. These letters came from 26 states in the energy, agriculture, and automotive industries. There's Will Huffman. He's an executive at the American Petroleum Institute, or API. He said the NHTSA's proposal was yet another attempt by the Biden administration to restrict Americans' freedom to decide what vehicle fits their needs and budgets. Combined with the EPA's proposed tailpipe emission standard, these rules amount to a de facto ban on cars and trucks using liquid fuels, which can and should be part of a solution to reduce carbon emissions. The API argued that while it does support policies to lower greenhouse gas emissions in the transportation sector, it doesn't agree with the proposed fuel economy standards because it believes it would harm consumer choice, raise costs, and create a fragile transportation sector. The API also argued that the NHTSA was exceeding its legal activity by setting fuel economy standards at a level that is not feasibly achievable by combustion engine vehicles. Ford Motors commented it never paid civil penalties under the CAFE program, and yet by NHTSA's own analysis, Ford would likely pay $1 billion in civil penalties if NHTSA's proposed standards get finalized. Ford felt this was alarming and said it would create substantial economic hardship for Ford. While Ford is projected to pay $1 billion in fines under the proposal, GM Stellantis face even higher civil penalties. Stellantis commented that the NHTSA's proposal can't be met, even with a dramatic increase in electrification in a fleet that is compliant with EPA's proposed rules. Stellantis claimed that the proposed rules were impractical and against the car industry, the agency, and administration electrification goals. Then there's the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, or AAI. It's an industry group that represents major car makers. AAI said, under the new proposed standards, companies will have to pay over $14 billion in non-compliance penalties. This would impact 1 out of every 2 light trucks between 2027 and 2032, and 1 out of every 3 passenger cars from 2027 to 2029. Put simply, it's estimated this will bump the overall car price by thousands of dollars. The AAI believe the car makers won't be able to afford the needed investments to reach the Biden administration's goal of 50% EV sales by 2030, while also making major investments in combustion engine vehicles. Automakers just can't afford to pay billions of dollars in civil penalties for non-compliance with CAFE regulations while still complying with EPA greenhouse gas regulations. By the way, NHTSA's proposal came just 3 months after the EPA proposed its most aggressive tailpipe emission standard yet, which indicates that 67% of new sedans, crossovers, SUVs, and light trucks should be electric by 2032. Then there's the West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morrissey. He led 26 states in writing a letter opposing the NHTSA proposal. In the letter, the states argued that NHTSA overstepped its legal authority in issuing regulations that threaten national security and force overwhelming stress on the power grid. The states say our power grid is already stretched thin by increasing electrification across all sectors and other governmental action. And so a massive predicted increase in EVs would be too much to handle. And even if the power grid were somehow able to handle it, we don't have the supply chain to make manufacturing of these vehicles feasible. But now, you tell me, do you think the USA will follow the UK and postpone the combustion engine ban? Is your impression that the US is or will force you to get an EV one day? Please share by commenting below. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for your support.